Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our entitled people, where people literally think they're the main character and no one else matters. And in today's episode, people don't matter for real, guys, because wild Karens are getting racist. They're accusing people of kidnapping, wanting workers fired, attacking others. Oh my goodness, your heads might fall off from the constant head shaking in this one. So yeah, enjoy the wild lineup today, and let's dive in. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I live in Colorado. My family and I came to the States from the former Yugoslavia, with my mother being Serbian and my dad being Montenegrin. My dad owns his own renovation business, and even though I have my own full-time job, I do casual work for my dad's business, mainly doing office admin and payroll work. My dad has 2 employees, both of whom are Filipino, and one day, we had this one customer who booked a job. And my dad sent his 2 employees to go to the customer's house, only for the customer to turn them away, telling them to leave. My dad's worker, who I'll call Miguel, texted me to say that the client told them to leave. So I just assumed that they changed their mind and they wanted to cancel the job. However, a few minutes after the text from Miguel, I received a call from the customer, who I'll call Ken. The guy angrily complains about us sending 2 Chinese workers over to his place. He complained about them stealing jobs, and he actually demanded we fire them. But it gets better though. Not only that, but he asked if we can replace them with white employees and to send them over as he still wants the job done. Now, I pretty much knew how this conversation was gonna play out. But I just decided to roll with it and tell him that these 2 Asian men were our only employees, and that our business is immigrant-owned, as my dad and I are both immigrants from Montenegro. Ken still wanted the work done though. He then said if we don't fire them, then at the very least, we hire 1 white person and send them over to his house, as again, he still wants the job done. I just told him it makes no difference if the employee's white or not. The people that we hire are competent and they can get the job done. He then accuses us of stealing jobs and says to me that we don't deserve his business. And after letting him rant, I just told him to find someone else to do the job then, and then hung up. Listen, I've read a lot of stories, and people have said wild things, guys, but the entitlement is astounding with this one. Oh, you won't fire the 2 employees I want you to fire? Well, I still want the work done, so why don't you hire someone who I prefer and send them my way? And the top comment of this post says, send over a white person, charge triple or even higher rates for them to do the same job, and call it the Premium American Service Department. This is very petty, what I did, but I think it's one you and your listeners may enjoy. When I was a teenager, for about 8 months, I worked customer service at a shopping center establishment. One of the parts of my job was issuing refunds for when vending machines didn't work, or they ate your money. We had a lot of vending machines, and you know those things don't always work right. All of our machines were numbered, and the policy was to ask for the number of the machine and then issue whatever refund they claimed it was. Considering the majority of the refunds were for 50 cents to $1, management basically told us, look, just side with the customer, it's not worth the hassle. Well, one day, I'm working when Karen comes up, and she says the Coke machine took her money. I asked her how much money the machine took, and she told me 50 cents. I then asked her what the machine number was. Now at this point, I fully expected her to not know. In fact, very rarely would a customer know, so they would describe the machine to me, and I would run and grab the number real quick. We wanted to know which machine caused the issue so we could send someone to fix it. Well, instead of saying, I don't know, the woman freaks out and she starts yelling at me. She accuses me of being a racist, as I was white and she was Hispanic, saying that she's not just some dark-skinned, lying thief I probably think she is. And she told me that I was a piece of crap for not believing her. Like, the woman made a huge scene. She was telling everyone in earshot that I was a racist. And she let me have it, but it doesn't end there. She also screamed at me that I was just an angry man because I was stuck in a dead-end job, and that I probably have a small package, and this is why I have to compensate by picking on customers like her to feel powerful. And seriously, this came out of nowhere. She was so worked up. So I calmly wait for her to finish her rant, and I say, "Miss, I'm so sorry you feel that way about me. But for every refund I do for a vending machine, I need the number of the machine to issue a refund. You'll need to go back to the machine to get me the number. It'll be on the front in the upper right-hand corner. You can't miss it." She then protested, and she says, "I'm tired, and it's on the other side of the store. Just give me 50 effing cents. I just said to her, "I'm sorry, miss, my hands are tied." She then calls me an a-hole and she storms off. 10 minutes later, she returns, the machine number written on her hand. I just smiled, pulled out the paper, and I took my sweet time filing the report. Now, normally, I would wait till after the customer left, but I really wanted to add in the solid minute it would take to fill in the paperwork before I gave her the 50 cents. After everything was said and done, I asked her to read my report and sign where it says customer signature, which for your information, we never got customers to sign, but she was special. She took a second to read the report, signed it, and I gave her the 50-cent refund and wished her well. I then proudly walked back to the office where my supervisor was, and I handed him the report. He just laughed his ass off, and he said, "That was the lady that was screaming, wasn't it?" I just replied, "Yes." And he said, "And you made her walk to the machine?" I replied, "Yes." He then said, "And then you made her sign the refund slip that no customer has ever signed?" With a burst of laughter, I just said, "Yep." And he just said to me, "Good man." Who else loved the fact that OP got so petty with this one? And with all the stuff that was spewing out of Karen's mouth, this is the least OP could have done, right? Like, if a simple question like that turned into her going off on a complete stranger, I just can't even begin to imagine her day to day. And if that was a head shaker for you, listen to this one, guys. This story happened to me and my best friend. For some background, I'm Native American. My mom's from a Plateau tribe and my dad's from a Plains tribe. I grew up learning both languages, and since my best friend was always at my house and she also grew up on the reserves, she was surrounded by the language and culture. Now, my best friend, who I'll call Mandy, is a white. Like, she's as pale can get. By the time we both left high school, Mandy could speak both my tribal languages as well as any tribal member. I have this habit, whenever I get excited or emotional, I speak one of my tribal languages. And this is a habit that Mandy picked up as well. Now, this story happens in a department store that sells food and other goods. I had to grab something in electronics, and Mandy went to the grocery section to stock up on junk food. She was reaching for some chips, and when multiple bags fell, she just yelled in a Native American language. That's when a woman, who I'll call Karen, overhears, and she walks up to Mandy and she starts lecturing her about speaking gibberish. And yes, she said gibberish. The woman said to Mandy that she's setting a bad example for children that could be nearby. That's when Mandy explained that she was speaking a Native American language of a local tribe. And this set the woman off even more. Karen starts going off how it was wrong for Mandy, being white, speaking that language. She said that Mandy was racist and to stop pretending to embrace other cultures and whatnot, as that's disrespectful. I happened to come in at the tail end and I asked what the problem was. Karen, seeing that I was Native American, told me that I should stay away from this white girl as she's, quote, racist trash. I start to get very heated up after that, but I try to remain calm. I just said, "Miss, this is my best friend, and even though we don't share blood, she's my family. She grew up on the reserves with me, so of course she knows our culture and language. And tell me, how is her learning my culture and language any different from people who learn Spanish or French or Mandarin? Furthermore, military families that live overseas often pick up a second language. Now, I don't know if Karen understood anything I was saying because her face didn't change one bit. She just scoffed, turned, and walked away. I am a 27-year-old female, and this person I interacted with is around early 50s, male. There is street parking around the neighborhood where I work. It's a typical Saturday afternoon, and it's hard to find parking. When I found a spot, I noticed a car pulling up behind me. I inched up as close as I can to give him room. I get out of my car, and that's when he says to me, "Hey, move your car. My wife parks there. This has been her spot for 18 years. I told him, no, it's street parking. If I leave, I won't be able to find any spot at that point. And this is his reply. He says to me, I pay property tax, so move your effing car. I just said to him, you pay property tax on your house, not the streets, so no, I'm not moving. I begin to walk away because I don't got time to deal with that. And this is when he said to me, I'm gonna call the cops and you will go to jail. I just said to him, go ahead, I didn't do anything wrong. As I was passing by his car, the guy clear as day said to me, you effing dumb bitch, you don't listen, do you? That's when I literally turn around and I walk up to him saying, what did you say to me? Did you just call me an effing bitch? The guy tries to backpedal and he said, no, I was on my phone. I wouldn't dare say that. The guy's phone's in his car and he had no earpiece in his ear, so I tell him, you did. You weren't on the phone. He then argues me and he says, no, I was on the phone. And listen, I have a daughter. I would never say that to a woman, ever. Trust me. Now, this guy was being an a-hole and I was getting so heated, so I just walked away again. And you know what he effing said to me? The guy says out loud, I have Filipino friends, I'm sorry. I just looked at him even more pissed and I said, what does that even have to do with this? And I'm not even Filipino. The guy tries to double down and says, well, you look Filipino. I tell him, I'm not, and you're also racist. He just says to me, I'm just saying out loud I have Filipino friends. What's wrong with that? At this point, I just said, shut up. And I just walked away. And thankfully, I came back to my car not getting keyed or damaged, which I was worried about. I don't back down from anyone trying to intimidate me. Hopefully you enjoy this story about a dumb a-hole who thinks he's entitled to street parking just because he pays property tax. Guys, this encounter was so infuriating to read, and the fact that Opie had to go through that, I commend her for not completely losing it on that guy. Like what he was doing and what he was saying, oh my goodness, what an insufferable idiot that guy was, all over a parking spot. And like Opie said, at least he had the decency to not vandalize her car. So this happened back in 2015, and for some context, I'm a white female. I used to manage housing at a very large, well-known university in the US. Every single time we released room assignments, we got hundreds of calls. But this one particular call still haunts me, and I finally quit and changed careers shortly after. I had a couple of full-time employees and students who would answer these calls. One of the student workers was a lovely black woman who we'll call Melanie. She was very shy, but she did a great job on the phones. She came to my office one day and she said to me, a mom wanted to speak to the housing manager because her daughter just looked up her assigned roommate on Facebook and saw that she's black. I didn't ask her what the details were, but I could tell that Melanie was upset. So I told her, take a break, I'll handle the call. I took the phone call and I say, hello? The mom on the other end says, hi, yes. So my daughter just looked up her roommate on Facebook and she's very upset. So I'm calling to get her roommate moved. How soon can we? I just stop her right there and I say, our policy is that we don't move the roommate. If your daughter wants to change her assignment, she can call and we'll look for an opening elsewhere. The mom argues and says to me, you don't understand. My daughter can't share a room with that person. She saw this one girl getting jumped by a group of minorities at her high school and she's terrified of them. She's so happy about the building and location, she just needs a different roommate, preferably one that's light-skinned, peachy. Hearing her say that, I was shocked. I just went on and said, how will your daughter handle classes, dining, common rooms, bathrooms, all that stuff? The mom says to me, oh, no, you're getting the wrong impression. We're not racist. We live in DC and we have black friends. My daughter just has an issue sharing a room with... I then interrupt and say, what would your friends think of this phone call? To my surprise, the mom said, you're right, this is so embarrassing. I'm so sorry I called. Please don't say anything or move my daughter. I'll talk to her. I respond, great. Please tell your daughter that racism will not be tolerated here. The mom apologizes and then she hung up. I had a conversation with Melanie after that. And then I told the live-in staff of that building so they could keep an eye on the roommate and make sure the daughter didn't harass the roommate. And by the way, for all you folks that went to college during the height of Facebook and you judged your assigned roommates by their pictures before meeting them, I dare you to look back at your high school pictures and tell me if those pictures really represent you. Seriously, when I worked there, we'd get hundreds of calls every single room assignment round because of Facebook. People are so quick to judge their roommates on what they look like. A couple of months ago, I was on a 7-hour bus ride when I was seated by a woman from hell. When I first boarded the bus, I was told it wasn't fully booked. So I assumed it would be alright if I left my backpack and personal items on the seat beside me so no one would sit with me. I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm someone who gets extremely motion sick, and no amount of medicine or remedies seems to help. And since this bus ride was going through the mountains, I thought I'd save someone the trouble of sitting next to a puking, feverish girl. Anyways, I rode like this for about an hour. Half the bus was empty, so I thought it didn't matter. And then out of nowhere, a woman across from me starts looking back at me. She's sending death glares over and over. At this point, we're slowly moving into the foothills of the mountains, so I ignore her. I'm trying to focus on relaxing and not letting the nausea overwhelm me. After about 20 minutes, the woman comes over and she says to me, "Excuse me, but I'm going to sit here." She points to the seat next to me. I give her a look of frustration, but being the non-confrontational person I am, I just moved my stuff off the seat, and I allowed her to sit there despite there being a few empty seats around us. Intentionally, I scatter my stuff on the floor, just enough so her feet don't have quite as much room as they should, hoping that this would persuade her to leave. But no, she begins kicking my things hard. I ask her very politely not to kick my things, and she looks at me with outrage. She then says to me, "Little girl, you don't own this effing bus. Give me my effing space. I'm 60 years old. You Indian bitches seem to think you own this effing country." And this is when the realization sets in that this woman is racist. She intentionally sat with me to bitch me out. And the thing is, I'm a Canadian citizen. I was born and raised here. However, I am brown-skinned because my mom's a Filipina and my dad is white. I just tell her there's no need to be so hostile. I put on my headphones and I blast the loudest songs I can find just to bug her. At this point, the anger boiling up inside of me and the nausea are beginning to get me. On top of that, this woman begins elbowing me hard and then kicking my leg. I finally give in and take off my headphones, and the woman demands I turn down my immigrant music. I demand she leave me alone. Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I can see her opening her water bottle and then pouring it all over my backpack and personal belongings. I push it out of her hands, at which point she begins screaming at me, telling me that I'm abusing a poor elderly woman with back problems, that I'm taking up too much space, and that I'm part of this Indian problem that's destroying this respectable nation. At this point, The anxiety and the mountainous bus ride is too much to bear. As the woman's screaming at me, I realize I need to throw up. I try to get up and get past her, but she was blocking me. I tried pushing her out of the way, but the woman wasn't moving. I'm terribly sick, so I turn away from her and I start spewing my guts out. Of course, the splashback gets her. The woman then starts screaming and she begins to hit me as hard as she can. It's also worth mentioning that I'm a tiny little half-Asian girl who weighs less than 95 pounds, and she's a bigger woman. People around us are jumping in to grab her. The bus driver pulls the bus over in the town we're passing through. The woman then demands that I be removed from the bus for elder abuse. The other passengers back me up and they defend me after witnessing this insanity. The police are called and the woman's escorted off the bus, literally kicking and screaming how Indians should be banned from public transit. The last I see of her, she's being held by the police on the side of the road, covered in vomit. And I must admit that my motion sickness has never felt so good before. Also, I end up getting a coupon for a free ticket with the bus company as an apology for what happened, which was only an added bonus. Seriously, what a terrifying situation that must have been. And I wish I could say that Karen learned a lesson with the whole vomit thing and the police coming. But guys, these people never seem to learn because they never think it's their fault. OP does come back to add though, and they say, from what I was told by the bus company later on, she wasn't arrested, but she was detained and she was forced to find her own ride home. I was asked if I'd like to press charges, but I figured the vomit-stained clothing, the humiliation, and the likely afterlife in hell was punishment enough. For some context, I'm adopted and dark-skinned, while the rest of my family is entirely composed of white people, both from my mom's and my dad's side. This story happened a few years ago. At the time, my younger sister was 15, and me, 24 male, are rather different. She's slightly taller than me, more aggressive, and verbal. I'm more of a quiet pacifist that loves to avoid arguments if possible. Because of this, our relationship is quite unbalanced. Sometimes we love each other, and sometimes we hate each other. In any case, we went to the supermarket together to buy some stuff for home. Right at the entrance, my sister drops her phone as she tries sliding it into her pants pocket. A woman picks it up for her and they share a laugh about her butterfingers, and we move on. As we're grabbing the spices, we couldn't find what my mom wanted. My sister wanted to buy the same spice but from another brand, while I wanted to call mom to see if she wanted it or not. So we caught ourselves in a small argument, just going back and forth about what we should do. And guess who appears? The pleasant lady from before. My sister says something about me being dumb and indecisive, and she makes some motions as if to shoo me away. And right about this point, the lady decides to jump in, and the conversation goes like this. The woman screams, "Stop it! You get away from this young lady, don't you harass her!" I respond, what? Can we help you, ma'am? The woman goes on and says, "I saw you harassing this girl, so leave her alone." She then looks at my sister and she says, "It's okay, sweetie, I'm here." My sister says, "Lady, this guy's my brother, he's not harassing me or anything." She doesn't listen though, and she says, "Don't you worry, sweetie. I won't let this creep steal from you or harass you. We both know people like him always do that sort of stuff." She then starts pulling my sister's arm to drag her away from me. Meanwhile, I'm just standing there shocked that she pulled that one on me. As much as I could have gotten offended, wasting my time with this lady was not optimal. I just respond, "Ma'am, this girl is my sister. We came here together." This is when she loses it and she screams, "Don't you dare try to lie your way out of this. You're not siblings. That's impossible." My sister says, "Lady, he's my brother. Who are you to say who he is to me or not? Please mind your own business and leave us alone." The woman left in a hurry and we thought it was over. My sister and I start laughing, talking about this psycho woman. And then the lady comes back with the manager. She then screams, "There he is. I've been watching them since they've come into the store, and he won't leave this girl alone. This is when my sister says, "Are you stupid? He's my brother. I've said that to you so many times. This lady's harassing us." I then take out my ID and I tell my sister to take hers out. We both give them to the manager, who starts to check out our names and the information. The lady also tried to check along with the manager. He then gave them back to us and immediately apologized. And that's when Karen says, "Well, it's just a tiny mistake. No hard feelings to be held, right?" My sister says to her, "Well, aside from the fact that you're a racist old hag that doesn't have anything better to do, sure." She then says to my sister, "I was trying to help you, you little ungrateful. You know what? Fine, I'm done here anyways." She then leaves in a hurry. The manager apologizes again and then leaves too. We just kept shopping and then went back home. We still share this story to anyone who will listen, and even though it happened years ago, it still cracks us up whenever we bring it up. I was just reminiscing about the absurdity of this situation that happened almost 2 years ago, and I've decided it's too good not to share. For context, my mom's a traveling healthcare worker, and we're from the US. Usually, her contracts last from 8 weeks to 9 months, and she's worked all around the States. This results in an ungodly amount of airline miles that she likes to gift me, so I can visit her whenever she's on contract. I get a nice vacation, she gets to see me, I get to see her. It's a win-win-win situation. That said, 2 years ago, after I graduated, I was living at my mom's. My mom scores her first overseas contract on a tropical island for 6 months, from June to the end of November. 3 months in, my mom realized the downside on being on a very small island, not knowing anyone, is she was lonely. This prompted a very bashful phone call in which she asked me if I wanted to take a break from my work and come stay with her for a while. I jumped at the opportunity, and she booked a ticket for me to stay with her for the last few months. All of this context comes to the main character, another US-based traveler who is my mother's coworker. Let's call her Mary, the Karen of this story. And Mary, to put it bluntly, was racist as heck. She was not enjoying getting paid to work on an island with crystal blue water and white sand beaches. Now, why is this, you might ask? Because she failed to realize that she wouldn't be treating white resort goers. No. Turns out, the people who tend to be treated at the local hospital were the native islanders. You know, people of color. She was so livid about being on this beautiful island and having to go to a grocery shop surrounded by people of color. It didn't matter that she could go to the beach every day after work, and that she was lodged in a multi-million-dollar vacation home on one of the highest points of the island with a gorgeous view. No, she was too busy recoiling at the sight of melanin. So yeah, she hated being there and she wanted nothing more than to leave. She latched on my mom for company, and my mom reluctantly obliged her for a time due to the aforementioned loneliness. The main conflict of this story comes when my mom's contract began to reach its end, while Mary still had a month to go. Mary didn't want to be on this island without my mother there, so Mary fought tooth and nail to renegotiate an early end to her contract, but she was denied. So what does she do? Mary decides to leave. Like, she packs up all of her stuff and she departs to the US anyways. Which is no biggie, right? She just doesn't get her remaining paychecks. Wrong. Here comes the beauty of contracts. You see, the contract that she agreed to comped her lodging on the condition that she fulfill her employment duties. Since she very clearly had no intention to, the contract was therefore voided, and the compensation for her lodging was promptly retracted. That meant that she was now on the hook to pay back this country's health ministry for several months of rent they had paid to house her in that gorgeous vacation home with a beautiful view. I'm not sure how much the home would have been, but I'm guessing well over $1 million at the very least. So the rent must have been expensive. Mary was now not only a crappy employee in this country, but a literal fugitive. She figured that they could only arrest and charge her if she ever stepped foot back on their soil. so she wasn't concerned as she had no plans to ever come back. She was mostly right, but that wasn't the only thing this country's government could do. They proceed to ring up the good old US government and notify them of the charges, and let them take it from there. They couldn't have her extradited, but they could ask the US to flag her passport until she paid them or faced charges. So the US government said, sure, we'll do it, and they did. Mary can't leave the US anymore. She can't even go to Canada. She tried to join her friends on a vacation in Mexico, but she wouldn't be allowed to cross the border. So if you ever think you screwed up a job really badly, just remember that you at least aren't an actual international criminal who can no longer leave the country. And I'm not even sure why her racist butt even wanted to go to Mexico. I heard there's a lot of Mexican people there. What a wonderful ending that was, guys. A racist Karen having to pay the ultimate a-hole tax. But you know what? It's no surprise that someone as stupidly hateful as that Karen was also too stupid to read or remember the fine print in her contract. Don't you just love it when a nasty person gets a nice dose of karma, guys? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/I don't work here lady episode where psycho Karens are getting their husbands to harass people. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.